Hi, and welcome back to Musicians Edition Practice with Me for Flute. I'm your teacher, Risa, and today we're working in the Rubank Intermediate Method for Flute or piccolo. And today we're on page 31 looking at grace note Etudes. This one we're going to really slow things down and we're going to want to use our metronomes for this, especially when we're first learning and starting with grace notes. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our first one, tempo di minuet. Okay, let's first take a look at our key signature. What do we have? 1 flat, B flat. Okay, tell me about our time signature. 3, 4. All right. And this is a slower pace, as you can see, andante. All 3 pieces we're playing today are andante. So let's play this round without the grace notes, okay? Just so we can get the feel for what it is and the tempo and all that kind of jazz, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Repeat. All right, excellent job. Feels like there's already a lot going on, doesn't there? Now we have to add in grace notes. Yes, take a look at what the grace notes are though, okay? They're just the single ones, so that helps tremendously. Remember, everything has to land on those beats still, so we can't take too long with them, okay? So we're gonna put our metronomes on. Let's start at 60. We're adding the grace notes in this time, okay? Remember, we're on 3, 4. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, excellent job. Hopefully that helped with it being slower paced and with the metronome. If that still felt pretty complicated, break it down even more. Okay, so just really slow it down if you even struggled with what we just did. But if you did okay, let's make it a little bit faster. Let's put it to 66. And this time I also want you to pay attention to articulations. We didn't talk about that. Okay, so anytime you're doing the grace note, you can see the little slur, so you're not going to tongue that. It's not. Okay, the grace notes are slurred. Okay, and then watch where your slurs are for all your eighth notes there. Okay, we're still going to take that repeat. This is also mezzo piano the whole way through, so let's try adding that dynamic in. I also want you to just put a little bit of emotion into it, so do some slight crescendos and decrescendos and vibratos now this time too. Okay, this is an etude, not an exercise, even though it is an exercise. Okay, I just want us to be a little more expressive. All right, let's go ahead, go a little faster, and add all that stuff in. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, excellent job. Hopefully that felt a little better too. And with those slurs, it should feel a little more natural. And even with this going a little faster, it still felt like it went. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the second one, double grace note etude. So, as we can tell from the name, we now have the double grace note. This is a little bit more challenging here. But lucky for us, they're all on either half notes or quarter notes, okay? But there's still a challenge because remember, everything still has to hit within the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then we have triplets to throw some extra rhythms in there as well, so make sure we pay attention to that. All right, let's back it up. What is in our key signature? 1 sharp, F sharp, totally changing it. Take a look at our time signature. Common time now, so we need to make sure we put our metronomes back on 4. All right, so let's go ahead and play this without the grace notes first, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. right, excellent job. Not too difficult without the grace notes. Just make sure that you are playing F sharps. If you miss the F sharps, mark them in. All right, so now let's go ahead and do it with the metronomes. Let's do it at 60. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, excellent job. That's just so we get a feel for it and see how everything comes in, comes off, and lands on the beats, okay? So now, let's speed it up to 66 again, okay? Pay attention to where our slurs are, okay? And we are mezzo forte, so we could just be a nice, comfortable, kind of loud, okay? And if you're struggling to read the notes on any of those grace notes, I know I have a hard time seeing them sometimes. I'm like, what is that, an A or a C? You know, it's hard to see. So I write my notes above it if I have a hard time seeing what it is, okay? So if you're having a hard time determining what that is, you know, take a peek, just write it in, okay? And then if you know what it is, then don't write it in. But if you have a hard time seeing it, then do. All right. So let's do it faster with articulations this time. And still put some emotion into it. So I'm going to hear some vibratos and a little bit of crescendos and decrescendos, you know. All right, let's go ahead and give this a try now. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, excellent job. Make sure you practice that a little bit and really get that down, really get it confident. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the triple grace note etude. As you can tell, it's getting a little bit harder and a little bit more we're cramming in. Take a look at our key signature. What do we have going on? No sharps, no flats this time. Okay, tell me about our time signature. Still common time, but you can see we do have some 16th notes coming up. Don't panic, it'll be fun. All right, so let's first start this off without the grace notes, okay? Just getting a feel for the piece. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. had one squeak in there. But aside from that, that's kind of the gist of it. Now, don't panic because we have triple grace notes in there and it's going to get a little intense for a minute. So just let's take a moment to look at like measure 1. I did measure 2. Okay, it's going to feel a little fast. Okay, that's also why I liked having us do them without, and now we're adding them in. Okay, we're gonna do this real slow with the metronome, and we'll get a feel for it. Once again, if any of this happens to be too fast, take time on your own to really slow it down. Right? Like you might have to take it like real slow. Even just if you might need to even practice just the and then start speeding that up, whatever you need to do to start cramming that in, okay? So let's attempt it at 60 and see how you do, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent job. Don't beat yourself up too much if you struggled with that, okay? Also take note, second measure of the last line, G sharp, and that G still in that same measure is also a G sharp. Mark that in if you missed it, okay? What you might find helpful if you're having a hard time knowing what to listen for, when to come in, there's so much you feel like there's cramming in, it might help if you take your pencil and put lines where the beat hits, okay? Like normally we know where the beat hits, that's pretty easy. But it can feel overwhelming when we're doing the triple grace notes. That's a lot. Where is the beat, okay? So just to help visually, it might help to just put the lines in where the beat goes. A lot of piano players do that by playing, because they have two hands. It helps them to know where the beat is. So we're just doing the same thing. We're just drawing those lines in where the beat lands. All right, we'll see if that helps you, okay? If you really struggled with that tempo, we are gonna take it back to 66. So just make sure you take time on your own to really slow it down and then speed it up, okay? Let's take it back to 66, okay? We're in mezzo forte. Take a moment to look where your slurs are, okay? This time we're gonna add all that in. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, excellent job. So a big thing here, just do not panic, okay? It's all fine. Really just take some time to practice it, slow it down, speed it up, get comfortable with it. Yes, and then it becomes really beautiful, and yes, I love it. You know, though it's challenging, I love it. Another thing here is you want to make sure your fingers stay low because we're moving fast now. Even though this piece is slow, there's a lot of things happening quickly. So make sure you're not lifting your fingers way up here. You won't make it in on time. And especially if this happens to be faster, you're really not making it. You want to keep your fingers nice and low so that way you're not having to work so fast, so hard. Just keep it nice and low so you're ready to go and you're easier to speed it up and keep up. All right? If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to hit like, notify, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our practices. Thanks for joining, and until next time. For more questions, comments, concerns, or even if you want feedback or to play games, make sure you join the Musicians Edition Flute group. It's free to join and anyone can participate. We'll see you there. And while you're signing up for all sorts of goodies, don't forget to join our YouTube course. It's free, it has all these lessons, but a little bit more organized.